Now, India is eager for development, but the US is not the one that can provide New Delhi with the atmosphere that its development needs. India needs to be aware that without paying heed to Indian concerns, the US strategy is hampering, not aiding India's domestic development. It is China, not the United States, that can provide more support and knowledge to India. This is what an opinion piece in China's influential newspaper Global Times says. The opinion piece comes after India and US 2+2 dialogue was cancelled for the second time. Remember, under the arrangement, defense and foreign ministers of the two countries were supposed to meet. So why is China wooing India despite friction at the border and the massive trade imbalance? Is America's Indo-Pacific strategy unnerving China? And what should be India's response? And that is not what we are saying, but what a newspaper report, an opinion piece in China's Global Times has been mentioned, that it says that India needs to be aware that without paying heed to Indian concerns, the US strategy is hampering, not aiding India's domestic development. It also goes on to say that it is China, not the United States, that can provide more support and knowledge to India. And to bring us more details on this news story, I am now joined in by our senior news editor, Mr. Surya Gangadharan. Let's quickly go across to him, who's joining us live from the newsroom. Sir, why is China wooing India despite friction at the border and the massive trade imbalance? That is actually the question that comes to our mind after reading this news piece in Global Times.
Well, China has always been wary of a strategic relationship between India and the US. And they fear that this will be used to counter them in Southern Asia. And as you're aware, as you mentioned, India and China have many issues between them, including the border dispute. Belt and Road is another issue, and the manner in which China is seeking to encircle India in its own neighborhood. So these are major issues for us. We need some heavyweight partner to help us counter China, and therefore they reach out to the US, which is something China does not want. So with the advent of Trump in the White House and the kind of policies he has followed, including America First, the result has been that many of America's allies have been forced to distance themselves from Trump. And in the process, it has affected India also, because some of his ideas on trade and the whole America First drive to ensure that American industry benefits, the American worker benefits, all this has hit us. So China sees an opportunity here to try and regain space with India, and therefore these comments in Global Times.
Right. Also, Mr. Gangadharan, why is America's Indo-Pacific strategy unnerving China?
The Indo-Pacific strategy is, China has dismissed it as symbolic, not really going to achieve anything. And at this point, really, we don't see much forward movement happening on Indo-Pacific, even the Quad for that matter. Clearly, this is because of Donald Trump, who has no use for the traditional alliances that had defined American foreign policy. And in this whole process of churning that is going on in Washington, the end result has been that many the traditional American strategic alliances in the entire Indo-Pacific have been on a state of flux. There's no certainty they will continue. So China sees this as an opportune moment to step in and underscore the fact that it's an Asian power and there's room in Asia only for Asians.
Right. Also, sir, do you see China now stepping in, especially after the 2+2 dialogue between India and US has been cancelled, which was supposed to take place in July?
Well, there is no direct link between the two. The 2+2 thing with the US is separate from any India-China interaction on any issue. But yes, there are a couple of meetings between India and China that are due to take place, including on BRICS. And these will go ahead. And as you're aware, India had invited Xi Jinping for an informal summit sometime later this year or early next. I presume that will also go ahead. And in the middle, we'll have a joint military exercise for the first time somewhere in Russia.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Gangadharan, for bringing us all those details live from the newsroom. We will continue to track the latest on this news story.